I hadn't been blind to the power of this anger. During the campaign, Bill and I both went back and reread The True Believer, Eric Hofner's 1951 exploration of the psychology behind fanaticism and mass movements, and I shared it with my senior staff. On the campaign trail, I offered ideas that I believed would address many of the underlying causes of discontent and help make life better for all Americans. But I couldn't and wouldn't compete to stoke people's rage and resentment. I think that's dangerous. It helps leaders who want to take advantage of that rage to hurt people rather than help them. Besides, it's just not how I'm wired. Maybe that's why Trump was now delivering the inaugural address. And I was sitting in the crowd. Yes, Hillary, that's why. What would I have said if it were me up there? It would have been daunting to find the words to match the moment. I probably would have gone through a million drafts. My poor speechwriters would have been sprinting only steps ahead of me, carrying the thumb drive with the final draft to the teleprompter operator. But I would have relished the chance to move beyond the rancor of the campaign, reach out to all Americans regardless of who they voted for, and offer a vision of national reconciliation, shared opportunity, and inclusive prosperity. It would have been an extraordinary honor to be the first woman to take the oath. I won't pretend I hadn't dreamt of that moment. For me, for my mother, for my daughter and her daughter, everyone's daughters, and for our sons. Instead, the world was listening to the new president's undimmed fury. I remembered the late Maya Angelou reading one of her poems at Bill's first inauguration. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. She urged us. What would she say if she could hear this speech? Then it was done, and he was our president. That was some weird shit, George W. reportedly said, with characteristic Texas bluntness. I couldn't have agreed more. We headed up the stairs to leave the platform and go back into the Capitol, shaking hands along the way. I saw a man off to the side, and I thought was Reince Priebus, head of the Republican National Committee and incoming White House Chief of Staff. As I passed by, we shook hands and exchanged small talk. Later I realized it hadn't been Priebus at all. It was Jason Chaffetz, the then Utah congressman and wannabe Javert, who made endless political hay out of my emails and the 2012 tragedy in Benghazi, Libya. Later, Chaffetz posted a picture of our handshake with the caption, "So pleased she is not president." I thanked her for her service and wished her luck. The investigation continues. What a class act. I came this close to tweeting back. To be honest, thought you were Reince. Ooh, catty. The rest of the day was a blur of greeting old friends and trying to avoid eye contact with those people who'd said terrible things about me during the campaign. I ran into Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, walking slowly but with steely determination. If I had won, she might have enjoyed a nice retirement. Now I hope she stay on the branch as long as humanly possible. At lunch in the Capitol, I sat at our assigned table and commiserated with Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, who I think is one of the shrewdest, most effective politicians in Washington. She deserves enormous credit for marshaling the votes for the 2010 Affordable Care Act. We can blame her. Under nearly impossible circumstances, and for standing up for what's right. Whether she's in the majority or the minority, Republicans have demonized her for years because they know she can get things done. Senator John McCain of Arizona came over and gave me a hug. He seemed nearly as distraught as I was. The niece of a top official in the incoming Trump administration came over to introduce herself and whisper in my ear that she voted for me, but was keeping it a secret. Congressman Ryan Zink, soon to be Trump's Interior Secretary, brought his wife over to say hello. This was somewhat surprising considering that in 2014 he had called me the Antichrist. Maybe he'd forgotten because he didn't come equipped with any garlic or wooden stakes or whatever one used to ward off the Antichrist. But I hadn't forgotten, you know. You know, Congressman, I said, I'm not actually the Antichrist. He was taken aback and mumbled something about not having meant it. One thing I've learned over the years is how easy it is for some people to say horrible things about me when I'm not around. But how hard it is for them to look at me in the eye and say it to my face. I talked with Tiffany Trump about her plan to attend law school. I kidded with Republican Senator John Cornyn about how I performed much better than expected in his state of Texas. In the president's remarks at lunch when he was away from the glare of his angry supporters, Trump thanked Bill and me for coming. Then finally, we could leave. Little did I know that the first controversy of the new administration had already begun over the size of the crowd at the inauguration. As is its practice, the U.S. National Park Service quickly published photos to mark the occasion. This time, the new president disputed the photographic evidence showing only a modest crowd and demanded that Park Service go with the lie that crowds were huge. This flew in the face of what we could all see with our own eyes. I had the same view Trump did up there on the platform. Unlike him, I could compare it to what I had seen at inaugural since '93. I understood why he became so defensive. There really was a difference. The episode was silly, but also an early warning. We were in a brave new world.